Hey guys, I hope you are all doing well. Today it is finally time to show you my complete horror movie collection that I've gathered over the years. I think as of right now, it contains over 1,200 copies of physical media, all on either Blu-ray, DVD, or VHS. I will be going through some of my favorite movies in my collection, as well as some cool collector's items and other weird stuff I own. This is probably going to be in multiple parts, because there really is a lot to cover. This video is going to cover all of the Blu-ray copies I own, so let's not waste any time, and I will clear out the first shelf so we can go through it straight away. On this first shelf in my room are all the more well-known movies and movies I really enjoyed watching, all on Blu-ray. They are all in alphabetical order, so let's start at the letter A and work our way down from there. As you can see, most of these movies are pretty familiar. The first Blu-ray I'm going to pick out is this Alien 4-movie collection. I actually found this at a thrift shop for like €2, and at that time I didn't own any of the Alien franchise movies on Blu-ray, so there was no way of leaving this behind. It contains the first 3 movies in Resurrection as well. The next set I want to talk about is this Conjuring 7-movie set. I already owned most of the franchise movies before I bought this, but at the time this was on sale and I think it looks way cooler than all the discs separate. It is missing 2 movies from the franchise, which are La Llorona and The Nun Part 2, but I have those individually, so no issue. You can see I have some of the other big horror franchises on Blu-ray as well, but some are missing a few parts, so I'm still on the lookout for those. A fun addition to my Child's Play Blu-ray collection is this documentary called Living with Chucky, where we dive into the franchise and get interviews with the likes of Don Mancini, Jennifer Tilly, and many more. I love how clean and simple the slipcover is with the yellow and pink as well. Moving on. I also have a similar one of the first Friday the 13th movie, including interviews and whatnot, but I haven't seen this one yet, but it's fun to have, I guess. I can also see Chillerama, which is a great horror comedy from 2011. The movie feels like you're watching one from the 1980s, with the goofy practical effects and ridiculous plots for the short stories it shows. It also has some big name actors with the likes of Ray Wise and Lin Shaye. Would definitely recommend for a fun horror comedy.
Feel the bite.
It was your bite, my ass.
Of I was a teenage weirdo.
Just below that we have some more Halloween movies, and we see the first media book in my collection. What these are is basically a hardcover book, including a Blu-ray on DVD of the movie, as well as all kinds of information and artworks from it as well. This one is from Rob Zombie's Halloween, but I have many more to show you guys. Then we have another 4-movie collection. This time it's Hatchet Part 1 till 4. If you love slasher movies and horror movies from the 80s, you definitely need to have seen these 4. They definitely aren't the best of movies, but they sure are a hell of a good time, with over-the-top gore, an excessive amount of violence and boobs. Some well-placed comedy, and not to forget, it stars some of the biggest horror icons of the 80s and 90s, with the likes of Kane Hodder, Tony Todd, and Robert Englund. This next movie is the reason I was scared for my life of cornfields in my early teenage years. Husk is a 2011 horror movie about this curse, which turns its victims into bloodthirsty scarecrows. I remember watching this with a group of friends when I was about 12 years old. We watched it on a summer evening, and afterwards we went outside and kept daring each other to go to the cornfield nearby, but no one had the balls to even go close to the field.
Any day above ground is a good day.
If we're talking ghost stories, The Innkeepers might be one of my favorite horror movies in that genre. This is one of the early works of director Ty West and follows these 2 colleagues who want to uncover the dark history of the hotel they're working in on the day before the building gets leveled with the ground. They use all kind of equipment to hunt for the paranormal, and what they find is a little more than they expected. This movie is a slow burner which never gets dull on its way to the big climax, which I did not see coming. It has some really tense scenes and good use of jump scares, which don't get annoying like most do in most movies. So The Innkeepers is, in my opinion, a movie you must see if you love horror movies. Next, I have this really cool looking version of It Follows. I love the cover art of this one with the contrast of the red from the blood and the blue from the water. Also, it came with this postcard, which has the same art as the cover has. Really cool. This next movie I actually watched for the first time on VHS. I don't remember how I found it, but I'm glad I did because this was such a weird and fun watch. Lord of Illusions is a horror mystery, written and directed by Clive Barker. It's basically about this evil cult who's trying to resurrect their leader, who got shot 13 years prior. And this private investigator has to stop this from happening. It's quite a strange movie and hard to follow at some points, but it really pays off in the end with some creepy looking makeup and crappy 90s special effects, which I really enjoyed watching. I want to mention Oculus as well, because this movie used to creep the hell out of me. It has such a strong story and an ending that will definitely ruin your mood. It is beautifully shot as well, which is no surprise as it's directed by Mike Flanagan, the man who brought us The Haunting of Hill House and Bly Manor as well. I also vividly remember this scene in the movie where the girl is eating an apple, and she then puts it down right next to a light bulb. She then goes in for another bite of it, but I think you can guess what happens next. Moving on to the third and final shelf with normal Blu-rays, I can't miss out on my favorite horror franchise of all time. Of course, I own all of the Scream movies on Blu-ray, even 5 and 6, which were fine, but the franchise wouldn't have been worse without them. I don't think I need to explain much about these movies, as it's one of the most iconic horror movies ever, with maybe the most memorable movie mask ever created. I do plan to get all of the 6 on 4K as well, but right now the prices are still a little too high, and I'm not sure if it's worth it for the quality difference. Talking about horror icons, I think it's fair to say that Art the Clown has made it to the list of iconic horror movie killers, alongside the likes of Ghostface, Freddy Krueger, and Michael Myers. Some people absolutely hate these 3 movies and think they're distasteful and just all gore, but I absolutely love all of it. Part 2, in my opinion, was maybe a little too long, with the story causing me to lose interest at some points in the movie. But apart from that, it's a solid slasher trilogy in my personal opinion, and I love it. My favorite Halloween movie of all time, Trick or Treat, has taken this spot for many years now. I enjoy watching it so much, I sometimes even put it on when it's not even close to Halloween, just for comfort. My favorite of the short stories is probably the one with the children on the bus. It has such a spooky atmosphere with the mist and the suspense built when the elevator goes down to the swamp down the cliff. I also love how the kids that died come back at the end for one last scare, just to make the circle of the movie complete. I have been looking for a Blu-ray of this movie for so long, and finally found it on a horror convention in Germany. Last week I came across a 4K version as well, and I decided to buy it as it had so many extras as well. This version is published by Arrow Video, and as most of the movies they release on Blu-ray, it includes a lot of extras on the disc, as well as a mini poster, 6 mini cards with shots from the movie, a little booklet, and of course an awesome alternative cover, with a slipcover as well. Another Halloween movie in my Blu-ray collection is The Terror of Hallows Eve, which is a pretty generic story about this teenage boy summoning a Halloween demon to take revenge on a high school bully, which of course takes a whole different turn than he intended to. This movie was a fun watch, but nothing too special, although it did have this memorable monster, which creeped the shit out of me the first time I watched it. The next 2 movies are pretty rare, and I'm really happy I found them and was able to add them to my collection. The Waxwork movies are basically about a group of teens who get lured towards this haunted wax museum, which just pops up out of nowhere. They have a little look, of course, being nosy little teenagers, but they'll soon regret it. As they walk through the museum, they notice the wax statues are in quite strange scenarios, and the figures in them look very realistic. One by one, the teens get lured and sucked into the scenario of the wax statues, causing multiple of these short stories. The premise is real simple. You die in the scenario. You die in real life, and your body will be displayed as a wax statue in the scenario you died in. This movie is a lot of fun with some goofy 80s practical effects. That was all the normal Blu-rays I have in my collection. I want to show some cool alternative art and slipcovers. First, I have these 2 steelbooks of the first 2 Ghostbusters movies. The art on these pieces is so freaking cool. I needed to have them, even though they were a little pricey. I also have this really cool steelbook from the movie Malignant. A lot of people hated on this movie, but I watched it in the theater and thought it was pretty good. The story sure is a bit ridiculous, but I liked it just fine. Then I also have some cool slipcovers. I have this very trippy edition of the remake of Poltergeist. The rest of the movie is the same as normal, but I still thought it looked really cool. I also have this version of Argento's Demons, which is fine, but nothing too crazy. Finally, I have 3 more slipcovers from Arrow Video. The first one is Tomie, which I actually had been looking for a long time, but only bought last week. I have read the original manga and absolutely loved it. My expectations for this movie aren't too high, but I'm curious to find out if it's any decent. Second, I bought The Last Video Store, which I saw the trailer for right after it got announced, but it kinda went under the radar for me after that. So when I saw it again for sale online, I was really stoked to buy a physical copy and add it to my watch list, because the trailer did look very fun, and was kind of an homage to early 90s slashers, I believe, but with a comedic twist. The last one is a German movie called Schlaf, or Sleep in English. I didn't know anything about this, but it was very cheap and it had surprisingly good reviews on IMDb, so let me know if you want me to cover this movie in a future video. Now we're gonna go to my second cabinet and have a look what's in there. Basically, these are the Blu-rays that are either not that well known, I didn't enjoy that much, or movies I simply haven't watched yet. I'm quickly moving through these, but if you see any movie you're curious about or have seen and want to recommend it, be sure to let me know in the comments, as I'm always open to suggestions. And that's basically all the Blu-ray movies in my collection as of right now. I do have some more Arrow Video Blu-rays that just got in, but I'm saving those for the next physical media haul video, which is coming in a couple of days too. In the next part of this series, I will be showing my media books and talk a little about those too. And trust me, I have some crazy movies in there and some gorgeous looking cover arts. This video will probably come out next week around the same time, so subscribe if you don't want to miss anything. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching all the way through, and have a great rest of your day.